You are the master of your fate. Let's begin. Listen closely, because what I'm about to tell you may strike a chord too deep to ignore. You see, in all my years studying the lives of the world's most successful men, Carnegie, Ford, Edison, Rockefeller, I found that none of them feared failure. None of them were haunted by the mistakes they made. What they feared was regret, not the kind of regret you feel after a bad investment or a missed opportunity. No, I'm talking about the quiet kind. The one that creeps in late at night when the world is silent and you ask yourself, why didn't I start sooner? Why did I waste so many years not knowing who I was? The regret I speak of is not caused by failure. It is caused by drifting. And if you don't know what that is yet, you will. You see, most people believe their biggest enemy is lack of time, or lack of money, or maybe bad luck. But I've seen too much. Talked to too many men who built entire industries out of dirt and determination to believe that's true. The real enemy, the one that takes more lives than disease or war, is undirected living. It's a life spent floating instead of steering. It's waking up each day reacting instead of creating. And do you know what makes it so dangerous? It doesn't feel painful at first, it feels safe. You get a job, you make enough to survive. You watch a little TV, you get stuck in small talk, small goals, small habits. And suddenly you've lived 10 years but can't point to a single thing that lit your soul on fire. That is what most people regret. Not that they failed, but that they never truly began. They die with songs unsung, books unwritten, businesses unbuilt, love never expressed, potential never touched. So let me ask you something bold. Are you living by design, or are you drifting? Because drift doesn't need a crash to ruin you. It only needs time. And time, my friend, is the one thing you never get back. We'll talk more about this drift in a moment. I'll show you exactly how to spot it, how to stop it, and how to replace it with purpose so fierce, so definite, that regret becomes impossible. But for now, I want you to do something most people never do. Be honest with yourself. Not polite, not safe, honest. Are you chasing your true purpose, or are you just surviving? Because most people will regret this one thing above all else. Not that they tried and failed, but that they waited, they wasted, they drifted. But you still have time. Now let's talk about what that really means. Let me introduce you to someone I've studied my entire life. He has many faces. He could be 22 or 62. He has ideas, dreams, maybe even talent, but he's missing one thing: decision. I call him the drifter. Now don't confuse that word with someone lazy or slow. The drifter might be busy all day. He might have a job, a schedule, a plan for the weekend. He might be respected, but underneath it all, he lacks the one quality that separates those who rise from those who rot: definiteness of purpose. See, a drifter is a man or woman who allows life to happen to them. They wake up and do what's expected. They follow trends. They react. They scroll. They wait for someone to tell them who they are, what they want, and how to get it. They make choices the way a feather lands, wherever the wind blows. A drifter doesn't decide what to believe. They absorb whatever the loudest voice says. They don't plan the year ahead. They just hope it goes better than the last one. They don't pursue purpose. They pursue escape from boredom, pain, or pressure. And I say this not to condemn you, but to wake you. Because drifting is not a character flaw. It is not a permanent identity. Drifting is a habit, and any habit can be broken, but only once it's named. Now I want you to listen very carefully to what I'm about to say. Because in my book, Outwitting the Devil, I expose the drifter for what he truly is, not just lost, but vulnerable. The drifter is the perfect tool for the enemy of progress. The enemy does not need to destroy him, only distract him. And distraction is the most powerful prison ever built, because the bars are invisible. You don't need to be chained to the floor to stay stuck. You only need to believe you're not going anywhere anyway. Drifters never say yes to the big thing, because they're too busy saying maybe to 1,000 little ones. But I want to tell you something no one else might ever say to you. You were not born to drift. You were born to lead yourself, to take the steering wheel of your mind, not just once in a big, dramatic speech, but every single day. You were born to shape your days with clarity, not let them shape you. Every great man I studied, Carnegie, Edison, Schwab, was ruthless about this one thing. They refused to drift. They made decisions fast. They stayed locked in. And when they got off course, they didn't panic, they corrected. So here's the hard truth. If you're not actively choosing your direction, you're drifting. If you're not obsessively committed to your aim, you're drifting. If you can't name what you're building, you're drifting. But here's the good news. Once you see it, you can fix it. And you don't need a new degree. You don't need permission. You need a reason. You need a purpose stronger than your fear, clearer than your doubt, and louder than the noise. And if you don't have that yet, don't worry. We're just getting started. In the next section, I'll show you the sneaky signs of drifting, because it doesn't always look like failure. In fact, it often looks like success, but without meaning. And that, my friend, is a far greater danger. Let me tell you something that might surprise you. The average drifter doesn't think he's drifting. In fact, many of them believe they're doing just fine. Why? Because drifting rarely feels like failure. Drifting often feels like comfort, like safety, like normal. That's what makes it so dangerous. You wake up, check your phone, go to work, do what's expected. You respond to the messages. You meet the deadlines. You pay the bills. And by all appearances, your life is functioning. But underneath it all, something is off. You don't feel alive. You don't feel clear. You don't feel lit up by the fire of definiteness of purpose. You're just managing. Now let me be clear. I'm not talking about people who are failing outwardly. When a man loses his job or hits rock bottom, he knows he needs to change. Pain wakes him up. But drifting lulls you to sleep. It disguises itself as success with no soul. Maybe you've got the job, but not the joy. Maybe you're respected, but not fulfilled. Maybe you're checking all the boxes, but none of them belong to you. Let me give you an example. I once interviewed a man who made 6 figures, had a lovely house, a respected title, and a stomach full of ulcers. I asked him what his definite purpose was. He laughed nervously and said, "I guess it's just to stay afloat." Friend, listen to me. That's not a purpose, that's survival. And survival is not why you were put here. Your purpose is not just to avoid pain. It is to pursue meaning. The most dangerous man in the world is not the one who failed. It is the one who succeeded at the wrong thing. Because now he's trapped by comfort. Now he's praised for living someone else's dream. Now he has too much to lose to ask himself, is this really who I want to be? That's drifting at its finest. And the world will applaud you for it. But let me remind you, the world has no problem rewarding your comfort. But it will never reward your greatness until you demand it. That's why I say drifting is the silent killer of destiny. You don't feel it eating at you until the years have passed. And you wake up one morning, look in the mirror, and realize you've been living on autopilot. If you're lucky, that moment will jolt you. If you're wise, that moment will ignite you. Because once you see the drift, you can choose to stop it. You can say, I will not trade my fire for comfort. I will not let my years be consumed by mediocrity. I will not look back and wonder what would have happened if I had just chosen. You must begin to ask yourself, am I busy or am I building? Am I productive or just performing? Am I moving or just circling? Because here's the truth. Motion is not the same as progress. Drifters move, but they don't arrive. So I ask you now not to judge yourself, but to awaken yourself. Are you drifting? Because if you are, even a little, you have a decision to make. And in the next section, I'll show you how to make that decision with power, not panic. How to turn the wheel of your life and set a new course. Not tomorrow, not someday, now. Now listen to me carefully. There comes a moment in every man's life when he must stop blaming, stop drifting, stop hoping that things just work out, and decide. Yes, decide. I do not mean wish. I do not mean dabble. I do not mean fantasize. I mean a burning, absolute, non-negotiable decision to seize control of his own mind and his own future. This is what I call the turning point of destiny. Most people wait for change to come from the outside, a better job, a new relationship, a little more motivation. But let me tell you what I've learned from a lifetime of studying the successful. Change does not begin when the world shifts. It begins when you do. Do you know what separates a man with purpose from a man who drifts? Not talent, not education, not even resources. It's this: one has made a decision, and the other is still hoping life decides for him. Let me ask you now with no judgment, have you decided? Have you decided what kind of life you refuse to live? Have you decided what kind of man you will become, with or without permission? Because here's what I discovered. Until you make a definite decision, your mind is for rent. Rented out to worry, to distraction, to other people's opinions, to the expectations of a world that doesn't care if you ever come alive. But the day you decide, the day you say, this is what I want and nothing will keep me from it, that is the day your mind comes home. That is the day your spirit wakes up. And that is the day the world starts to shift in your favor. When I made my own decision to dedicate my life to the study and teaching of success, I had no map, no guarantee, no applause. But I had something greater. I had a commitment so strong it rewired my very being. I had a why that could survive the worst of days. And because of that decision, doors opened that would have never opened for a man still stuck in maybe. Let me tell you this truth. Indecision is the enemy of power. Every time you say maybe, the world hears no. Every time you delay the decision, you delay the life you were meant to live. So if you're waiting for clarity, for a sign, for permission, this is it. This is your moment. Stand up in your mind and declare, I will not drift, I will decide. I will live on purpose, not by accident. I will build a life I don't need to escape from. Let it be loud, let it be firm. Because a weak decision has no pull, but a definite one, that's fuel. That's magnetism, that's spiritual gravity pulling your future toward you. Now some will say, but what if I choose the wrong thing? To that I say, indecision is the only wrong choice. Action, even imperfect, moves you forward. Indecision paralyzes. A man who chooses can change. A man who waits is already defeated. So I ask you now, not softly but with urgency, what are you deciding today? Not what are you hoping for, not what are you working on. What are you deciding? Because from this point forward, every action, every habit, every word must align with that decision. If it doesn't, it's a distraction. Cut it off. If it weakens your will, walk away. If it waters down your purpose, let it go. This is how clarity is protected. This is how drifters become builders. This is how men stop surviving and start becoming. This is the decision that changes everything. Now hear me well, because this may sting. You cannot outrun the gravity of a toxic environment. Not for long. Your mind, your habits, your future, they are being shaped every single day by what you surround yourself with, like it or not. And this, my friend, is where most people lose the game before they even play it. They're trying to think like champions while drowning in the opinions of cowards. They're trying to dream big while living in a room full of small minds. They're listening to music, media, messages that dull the spirit, and then wondering why they've got no spark. Let me tell you what I've seen over and over again in the lives of great men. Environment isn't decoration, it's destiny. When I sat with Andrew Carnegie, it was no accident that his study was lined with the greatest works of philosophy, science, business, and scripture. When I spoke with Henry Ford, his office had no distractions, only tools for focus. The lesson was clear. Your surroundings are either fueling your future or feeding your failure. Now let's get real. If your closest circle is filled with people who complain, shrink, procrastinate, gossip, you will inherit their habits, even if you swear you won't. You want to know a man's direction? Don't check his resume. Check the people he texts at midnight. Check what fills his ears during his commute. Check what he stares at when no one is watching. That's the man's real vision board. So I ask you today, not with judgment, but with urgency. What are you feeding your mind with? What are you tolerating around you that you would never recommend to your children? Who are you becoming simply because you've refused to walk away? You say you want clarity, discipline, confidence, but you sleep to noise. You rise to distractions. You surround yourself with people who don't even believe in their own potential, let alone yours. That must change. Because you cannot think like a lion in a cage full of cats. You cannot reach for greatness while entertaining mediocrity. You cannot protect your purpose while letting poison pour into your ears. Cut the noise, cut the nonsense. This is not just about avoiding negativity. This is about engineering an environment that demands your evolution. Create a space that makes quitting uncomfortable. Put reminders of your goals where your eyes land daily. Post your purpose on your walls. Build a playlist that lifts you higher. Spend time with people who speak life, who push you, who expect more. Don't just change the room, change the climate. And remember, discomfort is temporary, but influence is permanent. You will become what you're around. If that means cutting off some relationships, so be it. If that means turning off the TV, deleting an app, changing your habits, so be it. This is war, and your mind is the battlefield. Every moment you spend in a room that doesn't reflect your future delays the arrival of that future. But the very moment, you raise the standard of what you allow around you, that's when life starts to shift, because the environment you tolerate is the standard you live by. So raise it. Raise it until laziness feels foreign. Raise it until excuses feel awkward. Raise it until anything less than excellence gets uncomfortable. And don't do this once, do it daily. Because in this world, Mediocrity is always recruiting, but so is greatness. Which one gets to shape you will depend on what and who you let in. So I ask you today, what in your environment needs to go? What needs to be added? What needs to be protected, like your very destiny depends on it? Because it does. Now I must warn you, my friend, this may be the most dangerous part of your journey, and yet it's the one no one talks about. It's not failure that destroys most men. It's not even fear. It's the slow, silent death of distraction, the invisible erosion of delay, the quiet tragedy of drifting. You see, failure wakes a man up. Pain can push a man forward, but distraction lulls him to sleep while the clock runs out on his life. I've watched it too many times. A young man filled with ambition. He has a goal, he has a spark, he even has the talent. But he checks his phone 90 times a day. He loses hours to scrolling, to noise, to nothing. He starts a project but never finishes. He watches others win but never puts himself in the game. Why? Because he's distracted. And then comes the second enemy, delay. He tells himself, not now. I'll start when I feel ready, when the timing's better, when things calm down. But life never calms down for those who wait. Every dream you delay becomes harder to reach, not easier. Understand this. Success doesn't wait. Purpose doesn't wait. Your future doesn't wait. The clock is always ticking, and every maybe tomorrow is a lie whispered by your lesser self to protect your comfort and postpone your greatness. Now combine distraction and delay, and you enter the worst territory of all, drifting. And I must tell you this with all the weight of truth I can muster. Drifting is the devil's playground. A man who drifts has no direction. He may work but without purpose. He may speak but without conviction. He may live but without truly being alive. He wakes up tired, goes through the motions, ends the day wondering where the time went, and starts the next one just the same. He's not broken, not crushed, not defeated. He's just lost, and he doesn't even know it. And that, my friend, is a tragedy. I've told you before, the devil doesn't need to destroy you. He just needs to distract you. Because once distracted, your gifts go unused, your potential goes untapped, and your legacy dies in silence. Now let me give you the antidote. To beat distraction, you must simplify your focus. Don't chase 10 things. Chase one thing until it surrenders. Don't live on your phone. Live on purpose. Choose your inputs like your life depends on it, because it does. To overcome delay, you must understand this. Action is the cure. Don't wait to feel ready. Readiness is a myth. Start while afraid. Move while uncertain. Begin while unqualified. The moment you take that first step, momentum begins to whisper in your favor. Doors open, energy builds, direction returns. And to stop drifting, you must anchor yourself to definiteness of purpose. Know what you want. Write it, speak it, live it. Every morning, remind yourself, this is where I'm going. And today I take another step toward it. Because the mind without a goal will always follow the loudest noise. But the mind with purpose becomes immovable, focused, and fierce. Let me ask you right now, where have you been drifting? What small distractions have quietly stolen months of your life? Where have you delayed what you know you're meant to do? Don't answer with guilt, answer with decision. Because the second you decide, truly decide, that you will no longer drift, the tide turns. Distraction becomes clarity, delay becomes urgency, and drifting becomes direction. It's not too late, you're not too far gone. You don't need another year to figure it out. You just need this moment to commit. Right now. Now let me settle a myth that has left too many good men waiting for too long. You don't find your purpose. You build it. You don't stumble across it like a coin on the sidewalk. You don't wait for it to appear in a dream or drop from the heavens like a signed letter. No, you construct it, day by day, choice by choice, step by step. I've had young men sit across from me with fire in their eyes and say, Mr. Hill, I just need to find my purpose. And I tell them, son, your purpose is not lost. It's waiting to be forged. You build it by taking what's in your hand and using it, by refusing to waste your gifts, by doing something, anything, with passion, with intention, with integrity. Too many people are waiting for clarity before they move. But the truth is, movement brings clarity. Let me be plain. You do not need a grand revelation to begin. You need a reason and some discipline, that's all. You want to feel alive? Then build something. Build a body that reflects self-respect. Build a skill that solves problems. Build a service that helps others, even if it's small, even if no one sees it yet. Because here is the great truth. When you use what you have, more is given to you. When you step into responsibility, power follows. And when you build consistently, purpose becomes undeniable. Don't misunderstand me. I'm not saying you ignore reflection. Take time to ask, what do I care about? Where do I feel called? Who do I want to help? But then don't just sit with those questions. Act. Purpose is not a poster on your wall. It's a path beneath your feet. You discover it by walking, failing, learning, and refining. It is not one perfect moment. It is thousands of imperfect decisions that move you closer. Let me give you a practical model, one I've taught to men who have gone on to build empires. 1. Identify what you're good at. 2. Find a way to serve others with it. 3. Repeat that service with excellence. 4. Let that excellence attract opportunity. 5. Use that opportunity to grow and give more. And over time, purpose will no longer be a mystery. It will be a movement. It will have momentum. You want to know why some men feel lost for years? Because they keep searching for a sign. Instead of starting with what's in front of them, they think, when I find it, I'll go all in. But the truth is, if you go all in, you'll find it. Stop waiting for perfect conditions. The men I studied, Edison, Ford, Rockefeller, they didn't sit around hoping to find meaning. They created value. They solved problems. They made themselves useful. And purpose followed. So I ask you today not, what is your purpose? But rather, what are you building that could become your purpose? Where are you putting your energy? Where are you creating order out of chaos? What seeds are you planting today that might grow into meaning tomorrow? That's where your purpose is hiding, in your effort, not your imagination. Purpose does not arrive with trumpets. It comes quietly as momentum, and once it starts moving, it will carry you like a river, but only if you start paddling now. So stop waiting to find it. Start building it. Now, let me tell you something that too many people don't hear until it's too late. Your legacy isn't something you leave behind. It's something you live right now. We talk about legacy like it's a will, or a biography, or some grand final act. But let me ask you, what is your life saying to the people around you today? Because whether you realize it or not, you are already leaving a trail. Every choice you make, every time you rise when it's hard, every time you speak with purpose or stay silent out of fear, all of it is writing your story in real time. And that story is your legacy. Too many people put off their greatness until someday. But here's the brutal truth, and I'll say it with love. Someday is the most dangerous word in the English language. Someday steals dreams. Someday buries goals and excuses. Someday becomes never if you let it. You say you want to impact the world, then start impacting your own behavior today. You say you want to inspire others, then start living inspired today. You say you want to build something meaningful, then stop waiting for perfect conditions and start building today. I've met men who spent decades waiting for a better job, waiting for confidence, waiting for someone to believe in them. But let me tell you what I learned from 25 years of studying the most powerful builders of our age. Carnegie, Ford, Edison, Rockefeller. They didn't wait for someone to say go. They declared it themselves. They understood that legacy is not created at the end of your life. It's shaped in the middle of your struggle. It's defined in the decisions you make when no one is watching. It's forged in the discipline you hold when comfort calls louder than your calling. Let me give you something practical. 1. Start living like someone's watching because they are. Your children, your peers, your future self. 2. Stop looking at success as a finish line. Start seeing it as a path, walked one bold step at a time. 3. Ask yourself daily, what story am I writing with my actions today? Because your legacy is not the end of your life. It's the sum of your days. It's the echo of your effort. It's the trail you leave in hearts, not headlines. You want to be remembered? Then remember yourself right now. Don't abandon your greatness. Don't waste your potential waiting for the perfect mood, the right motivation, or permission from the world. The time is now. And yes, you will fail. Yes, you will fall. But a man building his legacy doesn't fear the fall. He uses it to rise higher. You may not feel ready. You may not feel qualified. But I'm telling you, as a man who sat face to face with giants of industry, none of them were fully ready either. They simply started. They spoke before their voices were steady. They moved before the path was clear. They acted before they felt strong. And the doing is what made them strong. So I'll leave you with this. Your legacy begins the moment you stop waiting. It begins with the first time you say, enough is enough, I leave my mind now. It begins when you take responsibility for your time, your words, your presence. It begins when you decide that mediocrity is no longer your default. The world does not remember the man who meant well. The world remembers the one who stood up and did what mattered. So stand up now, decide now, act now. And from this moment forward, Live not just as a man passing through time. Live as a man who marks it, because your legacy isn't waiting to be discovered at the end of your life. It's being written right now with your very next decision. Remember, your success begins the moment you decide to act.